All right, good evening, everybody. I'm 5 News Chief Meteorologist Skot Covert. Thanks for tuning in to this live stream. We're currently live on 5 Plus, Facebook, YouTube, as well as on our mobile app. Reason we fired up this stream, we have our first severe thunderstorm warning of the evening. This one includes a good chunk of Benton County. What we're looking at right now, a severe thunderstorm capable of 1.25 inch size hail, likely moving through Delaware County right now. In addition to that, 60-mile-per-hour winds are possible with this storm. Meanwhile, it's also producing a lot of lightning, a lot of thunder. You very well could be hearing that, even if the rain hasn't moved into your neck of the woods, which is a good majority of Benton County, specifically Rogers and Bentonville. That's going to change over the next few minutes. We take a broader perspective there, and what you find, that severe thunderstorm is still in portions of Delaware County. It's just across the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line, getting close to Siloam Springs, getting close to Decatur and Gravette as well. That storm moving off towards the northeast, it is going to impact Colcord, Flint, Kansas, West Siloam Springs, a good chunk of Siloam, certainly the north side of town for sure, going to be impacted by those strong winds, again up to about 60 miles per hour. It looks like the hail may be the bigger concern with this system. In fact, I've been looking at some of our hail detector tools. This often runs a little bit behind, so while it does show that hail core moving up, keep in mind it's probably right now getting closer to that Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. This is one of those post-processing types of products that we can use to see how large the hail is, and it's a good bet that it's likely at least 1 inch. That's the size of quarters. Just for some context, that's coming up just to the north of Siloam Springs there. It does bring that hail core, should it maintain its current track, right through the Decatur area, eventually moving towards Bella Vista. So heads up, folks, in a good chunk of Benton County. Right now, that's the only warning that we have in effect, but as we take a look at live radar, there are additional showers and additional thunderstorms building back off towards the southwest. Those likely to be moving our direction. There are no current watches in effect. However, I know at this moment the National Weather Service out of Tulsa is doing a conference call with the Storm Prediction Center in Norman. They only go into those conference calls when they're preparing to issue a watch. I expect to be able to pass along information to you with regards to a new watch here in the next 15 to 20 minutes, if even that long. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect for a good chunk, let's say all of I-49 and points towards the west in Benton County. This is for a severe thunderstorm capable of some large hail, some damaging winds. Our tornado threat this evening, while it's not zero, it is relatively low. Let's watch all of these cells really closely, just for good measure. I have been tracking rotation, checking for rotation, and I've not found any. I certainly see a good signal for some gusty winds coming out of the storm, not seeing any rotation couplets or tight areas of those winds spinning. We'll stay on top of that. That's one of the things that we'll be watching for closely tonight, just for good measure. But I'll tell you, this setup for tonight certainly lends itself more to a damaging wind and even a hail potential. And that's probably what you see right here, just to the west of Siloam Springs. You see those brighter colors right there? That's Doppler radar indicated wind speeds that are rather breezy. What we'll do, we'll take a closer look into this, and we can pull some data that gives us an idea of how fast those winds might be blowing out. Near Colcord there along State Highway 116, around 66 mile-per-hour winds. That's going to be possibly coming into the Gentry, Decatur area, everywhere between Gentry and Decatur along 59 or perhaps 43, State Highway 43 there in western Benton County. Just for some context of what makes a storm severe, it's 58 mile-per-hour or greater. Often, just for the spirit of transparency, I just round up to say 60. 60 mile-per-hour winds or greater, that constitutes a severe thunderstorm warning, and that certainly is meeting the measure there as those winds come closer to the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line. Here's State Highway 43, here's Oklahoma 116, and this is going to be Gentry, Decatur. Soon that moves close to X&A, Centerton, Bentonville, Rogers. Included in that warning is also Siloam Springs. Now, it looks like the brunt of this may pass just barely to your north, but I'll just tell you, if you live in Siloam Springs, those winds are probably breezy right now. They're probably going to continue to get breezy, and you may have some hail tracking, especially to the north side of town. Here's our latest hail detector. It's got that hail core pretty much right now sitting on top of 116, just of the east of Colcord. That brings it really close into Decatur. Let's put a track on this, get an idea of how fast it may be arriving in your neck of the woods. First, we're going to find out exactly how fast it's moving. This cell specifically is tracking right now at 40 miles an hour. It's moving towards the northeast, so with that we can put a track on it. from the heaviest hail core. This isn't the time of arrival of rain or winds, but this would be where the hail is currently the largest. That puts it in Decatur around 906, Bella Vista around 912, Centerton around 921, downtown Bentonville there on the square, 927. That gives you a little bit of an idea of when to expect the strongest part of this specific cell to be moving into your neck of the woods. Again, just for context, that cell's a pretty big cell. What I drew from is where the hail core is currently the largest. So you might get some heavy rains a little bit sooner than that estimated time of arrival, and you might also get some winds ahead of that time of arrival as well. That's when the hail would initially be moving into the area. It's moving off towards the northeast, right around 40 miles per hour. In fact, I've got a couple of cameras that I've been looking at. First, we're going to start with our Jack Links camera. This one sits in Bentonville, and I've turned it off towards the west-southwest. At times, we've been seeing a little bit of lightning. There you go. As we look into the heart of that storm, the lightning count has certainly been ticking up. Just cloud to ground lightning right there behind me. A pretty healthy thunderstorm. When you start to see that many lightning strikes a short amount of time, that tells us it is in fact a healthy, and at this point we know it is a severe thunderstorm. Severe thunderstorm warning is going to be in effect for that specific cell. Let's see, what time is that going to expire? Until 9:45. So the current time here at the television station is 8:50 on the dot. This one's going to run for a little while, so we'll be here with you every step of the way until things fall below severe limits. A live look in Bentonville from our Jack Links camera, our Rogers camera, which sits on top of Mercy Hospital there along I-49. This one is pointed in a pretty good direction. I think it's off towards the northeast. So here's Cross Church right here. So you would be seeing that lightning probably in this general vicinity. We'll give it a couple more seconds. Yeah, I'm seeing a flash or two here and there. We're a little bit further away from the storm, so you're not seeing as frequent of lightning. That's likely to change as the storm tracks closer into Bentonville. That Jack Links camera is going to give us a pretty good vantage of that storm as it moves back into town. Perhaps you're just now finding us here on 5+. We're live there. We'll be live with live Doppler radar, watches, warnings, you name it. Your hub for severe weather coverage, not only tonight, but with additional rounds of storms expected this weekend, is definitely going to be 5+. If you haven't downloaded it to your smart TVs, it's free. Best bang for your buck you're going to get. We're going to keep coverage there all night long into the early morning hours. This is our first severe thunderstorm warning. It includes portions of Delaware and a good chunk of Benton County. While the tornado threat is rather low, it's not zero. My top concern right now is going to be some hail and some wind coming out of this cell. Winds are probably more than likely right around 60 or so miles per hour. We're talking straight line winds out of that cell. At its heaviest, there very well could be some hailstones falling out as well. Probably a little bit more than about an inch in diameter. That's the size of quarters. That's enough to do a little bit of damage. Things are pretty quiet in the River Valley. Things are quiet across Washington, Benton, even Carroll counties. You can see the bulk of this activity now beginning to develop off towards south central Oklahoma. All of that is slowly but surely tracking our direction. In fact, when I loop Doppler radar, it'll give you a pretty good idea of kind of how quickly a lot of this is really starting to blossom up. There was a cap in place. A cap is this invisible lid in the atmosphere that often suppresses thunderstorm development. That cap had been eroding slowly and surely throughout the course of the afternoon. And so pretty much right on schedule, these storms are beginning to fire up. Now, this is the first of what will be several rounds of storms going into the weekend. And each individual round probably does have that potential of being strong to severe. So unfortunately, it's just going to be one of those weekends that you're going to want to stay weather aware. This is the first of what's going to be a lot between now and, let's say, Sunday afternoon. We'll take another look back into this cell as it's crossing more and more so into Benton County. We'll probably see the rain picking up really soon in Bella Vista, certainly soon in Bentonville. It's already picking up across Decatur and Gravette. Gentry, just to the north side of town, is where the heaviest of rain is, but you're certainly getting in on the gusty winds that very well could be causing a little bit of damage out there. It looks like most of this activity running north of Highway 412. Most of it is now west of I-49. We're sitting pretty much right on top of the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line. That's where the heaviest part of this cell is. A little bit of hail likely continuing to fall just to the east-northeast of Colcord. That soon, too, moving right on top of the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. I'm afraid our friends in Decatur, and I love you, you know I do, it looks like you're going to get a little bit of hail mixing in with some heavy rain. You've got a lot of gusty winds. Let's check rotation. I've not seen any. I don't suspect to see any, but I want to just stay on top of that for us, just to be safe and sound. And no, I don't see any wind, but I do see some. I don't see any rotation, but I do see a very strong bowing signal here This bowing segment here is that rush of straight line winds pushing out from that thunderstorm. These colors are looking a little bit hotter, which tells me if we sample them, they might be a little bit higher than what they were last time we did. 66, still 66, 67, down to 58. So, yep, running a little bit higher than it was. Definitely some damaging straight line winds, more than likely coming out of that cell. Get ready, Gentry. Those winds are knocking at your back door. Decatur and Gravette, you're also going to see these strong straight line winds. It's pretty easy to see, isn't it? You find those really bright colors. That's the Doppler radar detecting rain and such getting blown around. That's where they're strongest, is where you find that pocket of yellow there. So those are going to be winds blowing away from the radar. Now, if we were to see any rotation, what we would find is there would be pockets of green, and we don't see any little pockets of green mixing up with those other colors. So we're in good shape in terms of rotation. Wouldn't expect to see any. Let's keep looking. Right now, a straight line wind potential as that storm gets closer and closer to the Bentonville and Rogers community. If you live anywhere between, let's say, Bella Vista down through Lowell, part of you probably are under that severe thunderstorm warning. Bentonville certainly is, parts of Rogers is. The thing is, that storm is kind of it's a big old boy, so it probably is going to be bringing some rain minimally to your neck of the woods. Certainly in the strongest part, hail and wind. Let's go back to our hail tracker. This is going to give us an idea of the latest track on those hailstones. And notice this, we see some pockets of some purple right there. So we're getting up there in the scale. We're definitely at 1 inch in diameter at the radar level. Some of that, it could be melting a little bit. You probably know it's warm outside, right? Well, sometimes those hailstones melt when the temperatures are as warm as they are. With that said, even at the radar level, when you get those little pockets of purple like that, which is probably right now just to the west of Gentry and Decatur, you probably got some hail coming out of it. Let's do that. Let's pause it. Here's where the hail would be right now, sitting right on that Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. That's where we would find the heaviest part of that downdraft, which is a pretty good signal that we're seeing that hail actually make it to the surface. Some of it might be melting, but certainly some of it likely is falling just to the north of Siloam Springs, getting closer and closer to Gentry and Decatur. One of the things I like to do when we have a little bit of time with some of these cells is I like to slice and dice it. We can really examine this cell by just taking a vertical slice of it, and it gives us a really good idea of how tall the cell is. And we want to know about how tall it is because the taller the updraft, the larger the hailstones very well could be. And right now, when you look at that cell, when you slice and dice it, I'm going to manipulate some of this data here, bring it a little bit closer. I'm stepping out of the way. So here's 30,000 feet where commercial airliners fly. The top of our storm here is now reaching right around 30,000 feet. So that's a very tall thunderstorm, if you keep in mind. That's, of course, where commercial airliners fly, and that's going to be certainly capable of producing some hail. Looks like that brand new severe thunderstorm watch is out. I'll be able to populate that in my maps here in just a few moments. Back to this specific cell, Gravette and Gentry is where we would expect to see those issues right now. Siloam Springs, you're close, but you're not quite there. Looks like you're just to the south side of this specific cell. The warning continues to indicate 60-mile-per-hour winds, at least at the surface. We've seen a little bit higher than that at Doppler radar level, a little more than a quarter-size inch. So we're talking quarter to half-dollar size hail. There's the core right there. It's now completely crossed the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line, and it's moving closer and closer into that Decatur area. Nice, healthy inflow into that cell, just off towards the south and east. That's going to continue to keep it rather strong when you add that healthy inflow into it. It does look like a little bit of a notch right there. There's just not enough low-level rotation or enough low-level spin to be too concerned with rotation at this point. We look at it, and really we see a very strong signal for some damaging gusty winds coming out of that cell. Those really bright yellows right there, that's 60-plus mile-per-hour straight-line winds, likely getting ready to move in Decatur on top of the potential for some hail. That's going to be a concern for us going over the next several minutes. Let's see if those watches have populated into my map just yet. Okay, looks like they have. We'll zoom out. Northwest Arkansas is included in this watch. This watch is going to include Benton, Madison, Carroll, Washington, Crawford, Sequoia, Adair, and Delaware counties in our viewing area, and that's going to run until 3 a.m. So the areas here shaded in pink is going to be our severe thunderstorm watch, running until 3 o'clock this morning. Green is going to be for a flood watch. That's in effect now through Sunday night at 7 p.m. I really think our flooding is really going to escalate tomorrow night into the first half of Sunday, as that will be towards the end of the event after we've endured several rounds of heavy rain and thunderstorms, and some of the heaviest of rain likely to come into the area tomorrow night. Our severe thunderstorm warning, it includes parts of Benton County that runs until 9:45 this evening. We'll take another close look at that. In fact, we're going to go street level with this one so we can get a really good idea of exactly what's happening. A lot of lightning coming out of that cell as well, in addition to hail. So here's Bentonville right here. Here's State Highway 112. Here's, of course, 71, 279 out that runs through the Vaughn area. 72 here. That puts that cell right now right on top of Decatur. The hail's probably falling on Decatur right now. Here's Gravette. Minimally, you've got some heavy rain. You've probably got some small hail mixing in at times there as well, in addition to those winds. Winds are going to be the gustiest in this Boeing segment right there. That's going to continue traveling almost east-northeast. So I would suspect Bentonville is going to see minimally some high winds with this cell, minimally some heavy rain. Probably sees a little bit of hail as well, especially on the north side of town. The further north you go, I think you're going to be in a better position to get in on some of this hail. Pea Ridge would be next in line downstream from that. So if you live near Pea Ridge, you're not technically in the warning at this moment, I don't believe. It looks like it just stops just off to your west, but you'll probably get a new warning if I had to suspect. Weather Service will give it a little bit longer before they determine whether or not they are going to need to issue a new severe thunderstorm warning. Right now, if you're just now tuning in, current time here at the station is 9 o'clock on the dot. We've got our first of what could be a few severe thunderstorm warnings that we're expecting here this evening. This one includes Benton County, Delaware, and a small sliver of Adair County. Scattered showers are now beginning to develop in Sequoia, and those are rather broken and scattered in nature back towards McAllister in south central Oklahoma. Those two going to begin really developing, filling in, and tracking off towards the east-northeast. Weather Service out of Springfield has placed parts of McDonald County there in southwest Oklahoma in a new additional warning. Let's see if the Weather Service is going to have to extend another one. It's perhaps possible that it may not be required, just given the track that is currently moving. A lot of lightning with that cell. In fact, let's see how much, and then we'll go take a look at some of those cameras we've got over there. Right now, in the last 10 minutes alone, 133 lightning strikes. That's a lot in a very small area over a short span of time. Right now, looking live from our Rogers camera, this sits atop Mercy Hospital. You probably pass it up and down 49 right there. Here's Cross Church. You can see the three crosses there, and there's that very electric thunderstorm back off towards the west. Now, while Rogers is not currently experiencing the rain here that we are off towards the northwest, it's very possible you might be seeing some closer and closer lightning strikes. So not exactly the best time of evening to be out and about, given the fact that we do have these very strong cells moving through the area. Specifically looking from Rogers, that's back off towards the northwest, near constant lightning. We've got a camera that's probably going to be right in the middle of it. This is what we call our Jack Links camera. It sits right there on Walton Boulevard in Bentonville, and I pointed it off towards the west, so we're looking directly into the heart of that storm. Things are going to get really interesting here over the next few moments. Thadden Field is going to be just over here to the left side of the screen, just for some context as to what we're looking at. A lot of lightning. You're probably hearing the thunder as a result. These storms are rather loud, and that's expected to be the case. Certainly going into the overnight hours, may be tough to get some sleep with Mother Nature continuing with these storms moving into the area, not only overnight, but of course through tomorrow morning as well. Strong winds remains a big concern for us with this specific cell. Lightning, not necessarily one of those things that's severe in of itself, but certainly something you want to be aware of. This cell is the only one that's severe at the moment. Our warning runs through 9:45, and with the latest update, we're trimming Delaware County out of that warning. So our warning for our viewing area now only includes Benton County. We'll take a closer look into Benton County, see what the latest on this cell and those winds may be. We zoom in here. Still looking, okay, we've upped our winds now up to 70 mile per hour. The storm winds very well have strengthened. And from what I was just showing you on live radar, I certainly believe that. Our hail right now consistent of a little more than quarter size in diameter. That's certainly some large hail. And when it's getting blown around that 70 mile per hour winds, that's going to hurt. No question about that. We'll take another look here. I'll take that data off the screen so you can see just the live radar. Bentonville, heads up. Things are moving into your neck of the woods pretty much right now, especially on the north side of the town. I know the rain is starting, the winds are picking up. The worst of the storm is right now right on top of Decatur. If you're listening to my voice in Decatur, I know you're just sick of the weather, and I totally get it. Grab it. Thick of the rain right now. It's heavy. You've got a lot of lightning, a lot of thunder, certainly some winds. Same could be said with Gentry as well. Backside of this specific cell is now on the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. So you have probably 10, 15 more minutes to go before things slowly begin to let up just a little bit. Bentonville, the worst is to come. Rogers, the worst is to come. Lowell's not currently in the warning at the moment. That's not to say it won't be. It more than likely will be. Pea Ridge, you're not in the warning either, but I'll tell you, the way this storm's tracking, I certainly think the core of those high winds, 70+ mile per hour, which is right here over the Decatur area, that very well is going to track your direction. Eventually, Garfield's going to be next in line. So that despite the fact that you're not currently under a warning, might not be a bad idea to go ahead and just start acting as if you were. Let's take another look at those winds. Coming out of that cell. Wow, goodness gracious, you can see them, those brighter yellows right there, those pixels. That's where we probably see 60 to 70 mile per hour straight line winds pushing out of the side of that thunderstorm. You can see somewhat of a bowing segment. It's not as organized or defined as it was a few scans ago. Now, okay, that latest data brings it a little bit further towards the east. So the storm was moving at about 40 miles per hour. I'm curious if that's still the case. While I'm looking at that, I want to put some sampling on here. Let's pull some data. Yep, we're now seeing those winds up to 70 mile per hour with this specific storm. Okay, let's see. Let me go back up to 70. This warning runs until 9:45, and we're still moving at about 40 miles per hour. So the storm certainly appears to be strengthening as it gets closer to the Bentonville and Rogers community. Right now, winds and some hail are going to be our primary concerns. We'll go back to the hail tracker and we'll see. Yep, I think it certainly has had some large hail. When I show you this hail tracker, I just need to give you this disclaimer that this isn't technically live per se. This hail tracker is a tool that we use that kind of post-analyzes the radar data, so it's often 4 to 5 minutes behind. So I would expect the hail, the worst of the hail, to now be right on top of Decatur, pushing towards the northeast. That is going across 49, pretty much right just to the north of Bentonville. Gravette, you may miss the hail. It may pretty much stay just to your south, at least the largest of hailstones. Some of it may pass through your area. That track certainly takes those hailstones right through the Bentonville community over the next 10 or 15 minutes. Let's do this. Let's put a track on it. I want to do this. I'm going to put it on rain mode. At 40 miles per hour, the largest hail core, which is right now over the Decatur community, puts that at, let's say, Pea Ridge around 934, Brightwater there on 939. Here's some local landmarks that you can get an idea, base the time of arrival on this storm on. Moving at about 40 miles per hour, so that's a decent enough clip that it's going to be moving through. That does certainly take some of Lincoln Junior High School here through Bentonville. You're probably going to be in the path of some of those hailstones as well. Let me take that data off now that you've had a second to look at it. Let's go back to our hail tracker. I'm curious if that hail has come down any at all. Doesn't look like it has. In fact, we can sample some of this, and right now the hail tracker here at 5 News is detecting perhaps 1.3 inch in diameter hail. So a quarter is about an inch. So we're looking at larger than that. The warning includes 1.25, so it looks like radar's confirming what the warning has been issued for. That's the pocket of hail you can see right here. Of course, it's going to be the darker blue where that 1.3 inch hail right now is going to be possible, but we do stair step down even into probably some nickel or dime size hail, which, I mean, well, not technically severe. No one really wants to deal with that either, right? We'll go back to live winds, get an idea of exactly what those winds are doing right now. We'll wait on another scan to come in. Right now, your heaviest winds between Decatur and Gravette. Those yellows, that's going to be our 70 mile per hour wind gusts. We're talking straight line winds coming out of that cell. So if you live anywhere up and down 49, anywhere in Bentonville, a good chunk of Rogers, you are certainly included in the path of the storm. You're in the warning. You got a few minutes. If maybe you got some loose lawn furniture on the back porch you want to pull inside really quickly, you don't want to wait much longer. You probably want to avoid some windows, especially west-facing windows. If you live with windows facing towards where the sun has been setting, that's where those straight line winds are going to be coming from. You might want to avoid those. Newest scans now come in, still looking at a pretty large pocket of straight line winds. Decatur through Gravette, that's where the highest winds are. We're getting really close to I-49 right there. Let's take a closer look. So right here is going to be Highway 279 and 72. Pretty much at the time you hear my voice, those winds are going to be moving into your area, if not very, very soon after. Centerton's going to be next in line before this eventually gets closer and closer to the I-49 corridor. I want to do this. I want to put my cell phone number up here on the screen. Let me step out of the way so you can see that. We are live on Facebook. We're live on 5+. We're live on YouTube. As crazy as it sounds, I can't see the Facebook comments. So if you got questions, more importantly, if you've got reports, I could really, really use those in this moment to help warn folks in the path of the storm. And I can also funnel that information directly to the National Weather Service. So if you have specifically hail or wind damage reports, please text them to me, 479-785-5000. The best thing you can do is include your name and the location. You wouldn't believe the amount of pictures I get sent to me that don't have a location, which is tough to make useful, and it doesn't have name, so that I can't give you proper credit. If you want to remain anonymous, totally fine. Just be sure to note that in your text message. Pictures are very helpful. Right now, we continue to see the potential of 70-mile-per-hour winds, larger than 1 inch in diameter hail. Bella Vista, Bentonville, Centerton, Gentry, just to name a few communities that are in the path of this storm, included in the warning, which is going to run until 9:45. Current time is right at 9:10 here at the station. Question, anything happening in Rogers? Not at the moment. I'll show you where Rogers is. So let me actually take that information off real quick, just so you can get a good view of it. Here's Rogers right here. We were just looking from the Mercy Rogers camera, and we were looking directly into that storm. It may skirt just to the north side of town. So here's Heifel, X and A, right, just for some context there. Here's Lowell, here's Rogers, here's downtown Bentonville. I think Bentonville probably is going to see some high winds. In fact, it really looks like those are coming really, really, really close to Bentonville. Rogers, with being just a little bit further towards the south, kind of just depending on what part of town you're at, is going to dictate whether or not you get the worst part of the storm, or maybe just some moderate to heavy rain that now extends back towards Gentry. Even Siloam Springs getting in on some other cells that are now beginning to move into the area. I'll tell you, it's probably going to be Bentonville through Bella Vista that sees the heaviest of rain, the highest of winds, and probably the largest of hail. So here's Bella Vista, here's Sulphur Springs, Gravette, Decatur, just to give you some bearings. This black line right here, this is Interstate 49. So if you live anywhere up and down 49 between, let's say, Rogers and the state line, that's where the largest hailstones are likely to fall, the heaviest of winds likely to push through the area. I'm seeing near constant lightning from those cameras. Let's go back. This one's going to be in Rogers. We're looking for Mercy Hospital right there on the east side of I-49, and we're pointed directly towards the northwest. So we've got an incredible vantage point looking directly into the heart of the storm. Near constant lightning with this specific cell. Just for some context as to where we're looking from, here's Cross Church, the big three crosses right there, just outside of the frame, just to on the left side of your screen. If we were to pan the camera that direction, that's the amp. That's Top Golf, and of course behind me would be the mall. We're looking towards the northeast. The tail lights there you see traveling, those are folks traveling northbound on I-49, headlights traveling south. Hopefully that gives you some idea as to what we're looking at. I keep waiting to see just some storm structure. When you're storm chasing around these parts, you almost always have to do it at night, and it's one of the things I learned really early. Lightning is your friend. Lightning's a scary thing, but it can be your friend and help illuminating the clouds. And while the tornado threat tonight is relatively low, it's not zero, so I look just to see, are we finding any lowerings, anything of that nature? And I'm not seeing anything necessarily from this vantage. I'm not seeing any rotation on live radar. Certainly something we want to continue watching. We'll take a look at our Bentonville Jack Links camera. This one's also pointed off towards the west there. Lightning show from North Walton in Bentonville. There's a video there. Here's a text between Centerton and Gravette. Mountain 100% correct on hail, nickel size, not too heavy. Windy, but not 70 miles per hour. Okay, excellent, good to know. Anything in Spiro? Not at the moment. You got some showers and thunderstorms developing there. Not far from Spiro. Nothing severe at the moment. Things are pretty spotty, but certainly not severe. That's the good news for us. This is a very electric thunderstorm, as you can see here. This is our Jack Links camera. It sits right on Walton Boulevard. Just for a little bit of context, it's looking up towards the west. Just to the left there would be Thadden Field, the airport. So give you some context to get your bearings of what we're looking at. At times, with those lightning flashes being as close as they are and as frequent as they are, it almost looks like broad daylight there on top of the slim. This is the Jack Links building. There's your storm right there. You can kind of see the front edge of it getting closer and closer to our camera. Sometimes I get nervous about those cameras and these electric thunderstorms. I'm not sure how long they're going to last up there before they either get hit or we lose power in some of those locations. We have one severe thunderstorm warning and it continues to be trimmed. This one is just for Benton County. Got some questions about portions of the river valley. Really spotty scattered showers developing in Adair. Got a couple west of Fort Smith through portions of Sequoia County. You got some scattered activity that's going to continue to develop and build in. So while this is the first and only warning we've got right now, we're probably going to have more before the next round moves in come tomorrow morning. This is going to be a 72-hour period in which we're going to have several rounds of on and off showers and storms. Severe weather potential with just about every round. Doesn't mean it's going to be a constant steady rain this weekend. There's going to be a lot of rain this weekend, but I do think we'll get breaks here and there. Let's go back into Benton County. Looks like just based off of that warning, it's getting smaller and smaller. So you can see this orange polygon here. We've dropped the hail size, and we've just got that text message from that report. Thank you so much for sending that in. Weather Service hearing that and lowering that warning down to 1 inch in diameter. Still, though, it is capable of producing 70-mile-per-hour winds. We'll take that off, and you can get a very close picture as to what's happening here. Heavy rain in Bella Vista, no question about that. Maybe some small hail mixing in. It's getting closer and closer to Bentonville. Things, while still are probably pretty heavy between Gravette and Decatur, the worst of it, I think, has just passed you to the east. We'll take another look at those winds there and get an idea of what they're doing now. There's still a pocket of some really high winds. Now we're looking from the Tulsa radar site, so we are looking, in all fairness, a little bit higher above the surface than what we would like. But that heavy wind, high wind right there, it's now right on top of I-49. You see that pocket of yellow? Should there be 70-mile-per-hour winds, this is exactly where it is. That's going to be moving really close into the Bella Vista community. Give it a matter of about 5-7 more minutes, and those winds are going to be picking up right there. So if you're in Bella Vista, same advice to you. If you've got a west-facing window, maybe even a door, I'd probably try to steer clear of that, especially if we get a little bit of hail mixing in at times. You want to move to a different room. Away from windows just would be a really good idea in general, but certainly west-facing windows that are going to be looking directly into those damaging straight-line winds. We'll take a look and see what radar tells us. Still seeing about a 68-mile-per-hour wind sample out of that core right there. Now let's zoom in and get an idea of exactly where that is at this exact moment. Pretty much right on top of 49, right there, 49, 279, Hiwassee. That's going to be exactly where this is. I met with the sheriff, Sheriff Holloway. If by chance you're watching out there tonight, I'd be very curious to know what you're seeing. I know that's kind of your neck of the woods out there. Very curious. Send me a text message and I'll be able to relay that out to the folks there in Benton County. That's where it is. Pocket of highest winds right now, right along 72 and 49. Where 72 and 49 meet, that is exactly where those 70-plus-mile-per-hour winds could be coming out of this thunderstorm. We're talking straight line winds. That's going to be our primary concern wind-wise associated with hail. And at times those hailstones tonight have been quite large. Let me back out. I'll zoom back out so you can see all of northwest Arkansas first. I'll check for some more of your reports. Nothing new there. Go back to northwest Arkansas. Okay, this might be a new report. Oh. Here's our cell. A lot of lightning with it. Very electric thunderstorm. I can hear the thunder from here at our station, and we're well south of where the storm actually is. You're probably going to hear a lot of thunder overnight if I had to guess. At least a lot of us certainly will. Right now, we continue to track the potential for 70-mile-per-hour winds, 1-inch hail coming out of the cell. Been looking at our winds. I have not seen a lick of rotation, any at all, over the last several hours. That's the good news. Our rotation potential, our tornado potential tonight is relatively low. It's not zero, so I keep checking it just to be on top of things, but I'm not seeing it, and I don't expect to see it at least anytime soon. Despite the fact you might see a little bit of a hook there, there is steady, healthy inflow. Looks are going to be a little bit deceiving there. That inflow, though, is fueling a large updraft, an updraft that at one point, we can take a look here in a second to see what it is now. At one point, the storm top on this was 30,000 feet. That's where commercial airliners are traveling. So that's how high those towers, that thunderstorm had billowed. And when you get updrafts that can support 30,000 feet storm tops, it's pretty easy to start to get some hailstones. And we probably had some large hailstones out there at some point. Seeing another one of your text message here in northeast Bella Vista, no wind yet, tons of lightning and moderate rain. Good report. Thank you so much. I suspect the worst of it may be coming into your neck of the woods in the next 3 to 5 minutes or so. It's just off to your west. Looks like the worst has now crossed I-49. So we're east, northeast there of I-49. I'll go in tighter here with the specific warning. Right now, the current time is 9:19. This warning set to expire at 9:45. It's not weakened below severe limit, so at least at this point, I wouldn't suspect that warning to necessarily be allowed to expire anytime soon, but I would suspect it to continue till at least 9:45, if not even extended a little bit further. So looking there, there's Bella Vista. Yep, winds are going to be just off to your west. It looks like that latest scan may have brought those winds down just a tad. Maybe they're not as breezy as it was. That's some good news. Let's hope that trend holds. I still see some yellow pixels there, which are going to be those 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. At one point it was 70 earlier. We'll sample that and see just for sure what's happening. Not wanting to pick that up. 64, it's better than it was, 59. Slowly but surely coming down, still meeting the severe weather criteria. That's without question. In terms of hail, you can see that hail core, oh goodness, it brought it right up that 49 corridor right there. Some of this could have been melting. It's kind of a warm out there, right? Some of that could have been melting on descent. And so maybe it's not as large as radar detecting it is. That's a real possibility for us. But the hail track certainly brought that up through portions of Bentonville, northwest side of town, getting really, really close to Bella Vista right now, especially you're going to be on the south side of Bella Vista. Here's 279. You can see that icon marker right there. That's probably where we've got the largest of hailstones, should there be hailstones falling right now. That'll continue tracking closer and closer up towards 94 and eventually crossing the state line over into McDonald County, which is included in a different severe thunderstorm warning for this same storm just issued by the Weather Service out of Springfield, who's responsible for southwestern Missouri. Here's downtown Bentonville. Looks like we're going to miss the hail core. That's the good news. Winds, though, probably did pick up, probably did get some good rain. Let's go back to rain mode and see what's happening there. West side of town certainly seeing some rain. May not get too heavy in downtown. This looks to be taking a little bit more of a northerly jaunt, which is some good news for downtown Bentonville. Not the best news for Bella Vista, unfortunately, with the latest track of that cell continuing to move up towards the north and east. Let's zoom out. I can see a cell coming in on the backside of that as well. It's not severe, but I mean, the folks in Siloam Springs, Cold Cord, here a good chunk of Delaware County, that's going to be a strong thunderstorm. There's no question about that. So that's soon going to be moving into almost the same area, taking almost the same track as this severe warned cell. We'll have to see if it grows into a severe thunderstorm warning. It's certainly possible that it does with time. 9:22 is the current time. This is the only warning we have right now. While we're waiting on some new data, let me first, I guess, see a new text message. This is Lake Brittany, Bella Vista, still no wind, decreasing rain. Give it just a little bit longer. I suspect those winds are going to pick up. Let's hope they don't actually meet that 60 to 70. We are looking at radar out of Tulsa. You can look at radar out of Fort Smith, and at any way you cut it, you're a little bit further from the radar beam. You're looking higher up into the atmosphere. So it's entirely possible not all of it's making it to the ground, which would be some great news for us. No question about that. Do want to show you this. We're just now catching the stream. National Weather Service, in conjunction with the Storm Prediction Center, did issue a severe thunderstorm watch until 3 a.m. this morning. That's for our counties here in pink. Green is going to be a flood watch. That runs all the way through Sunday evening. And back towards south central and central Oklahoma, that yellow there is a tornado watch, where the tornado ingredients are going to be slightly more favorable for the development of tornadoes there. I keep looking at my watch, and I just want you to know that I've got my text messages that you guys are sending in routed to my watch. I promise I'm not doing anything else. Looks like we are going to continue with this warning. I might have actually issued a slightly new one, a slightly new polygon with that specific cell. Okay, yeah, this is going to be a new severe thunderstorm warning for the same cell. It does include P Ridge this time. You weren't initially included in the first warning. We'll zoom in. You can see this is a tiny sliver of a warning. It also includes Bella Vista. Here's P Ridge right here. Heaviest of the storm right now just to the south of Bella Vista. That's going to be tracking off towards the northeast. P Ridge right here. You're going to get Garfield. Looks like Garfield was excluded from the warning. You may get lucky and it may just miss you off towards the northwest. Looks like that's entirely possible, as this thing at one point was taking more of an east-northeast track, and the latest few scans are indicating more of a north-northeast track. It's kind of getting picked up and pushing off towards the northeast, which for a lot of us is some good news. Unfortunately, that did shift a little bit more of the brunt of that storm into northern Benton County. Soon, though, the bulk of it's going to cross the state line over into Missouri, at which point we can let our guard down, at least for the time being. I do suspect there's going to be additional cells this evening, unfortunately, that do pulse up and produce some severe weather. Got a video there. I'll check that here real soon. This is from Rogers and Lowell. Thank you so much for sitting that in. I really appreciate that. We'll go area wide one more time, make sure nothing else is bubbling up on us. You do find this cell coming out of Delaware. That's soon going to move back into those same areas that just had the hail and the high winds move through western Benton County. I got a couple of cells now developing south of Fayetteville and portions of Washington, some extending into Adair County. Those are the ones that moved out of Sequoia. They organized pretty quickly. Given that trajectory those have been on, I suspect those will continue to bubble up and inevitably probably grow into some thunderstorms at some point. These back near Tulsa, back near OKC, not severe at the moment. Looks like there is one severe thunderstorm warning south of Oklahoma City. That's well to the west of us. Our only warning is for this one storm that's now pretty much right on top of Bella Vista. It's tracking northeasterly enough that it may move out of entirely move out of our coverage area before the actual warning itself is set to expire. You can look at it from a couple of different radar sites. This one, I believe, is going to be out of the Springfield radar site. It's all the same storm, just gives us a little bit different ways of looking at things. A lot of lightning and a lot of thunder right there. In fact, what I could do, this is streaming, so I think you're going to give me a little bit more grace than you would on television, right? This is our Jack Link's camera, which right now is pointed off towards the west, but I can actually spin this around. This is for, okay, the text here, Lake Avalon area, small hail, pea size-ish, thank you, good measurement there. Power flickering, and that was at 9:20, so about 5 minutes ago. Let's spin this camera around. It's gonna look a little funky there. There's the air conditioners. Looking right on top of that building. Okay, I went too far probably. Let me back it up. You can see the lightning certainly ticking back up as we look further towards the north end of that cell. I bet that's probably gonna be a good spot for it. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Bump it up. If you look at these clouds really closely, you can see they're moving pretty quickly. Really good view of the storm now from the back side of it. A lot of lightning, although it looks to me like that lightning may be coming down. We can tell, we can sample it. Earlier it was around, what, 133 strikes or so every 10 minutes. If we look now, let's get an idea. It's probably not near that much. Didn't want to sample for me. Let's try now. Well, it's exactly the same, 133. Of course it would be 133 strikes the last 10 minutes on top of Bella Vista. Pea Ridge, you're technically included in the new warning here. Good chunk of Bentonville is. Looks like the worst of the storm, though, to the north of Bentonville. You got more rain, more thunderstorms moving into the Gravette Decatur community. That's not severe at the moment. Okay, now we're down to 122. That trend's a good trend. Okay, now we're ticking back up. Every time I say it, it's going to change, right? Real-time data coming in. This is a new report. East of Bella Vista, heavy rain, winds picking up, lots of lightning, thunder. Hail just began. About 1/4 of an inch. Okay, hey, that's good that that's only 1/4 of an inch. At one point it was much higher. In fact, yeah, exactly. As you look at the hail detector now, you remember a few minutes ago when we were tracking it at these darker blues and there are even some splotches of purple in there. We've notched it down several colors there. So that's some good news. That's now just to the south and east of Bella Vista, almost due east of Bella Vista. That's getting ready to move out of the Arkansas viewing area over into McDonald County, which soon will be the case. And once that happens, they'll probably trim the warning. And once they trim the warning or allow it to cancel early, that could be some good news. We'll, at that point, just for some housekeeping so you're not caught off guard, at that point we'll end the stream unless there's a new warning for some other cell. And we'll, of course, see you right here on the 10 o'clock news, which is coming up in about 30 minutes. We'll probably see additional rounds of storms overnight, so we're going to be staffed here in the studio for the next 72 hours. We'll be here through at least Sunday evening, tracking on, off, rain, thunderstorms. Kind of our operating procedures, just in the spirit of transparency. We fire up these streams anytime there's a warning issued. We'll go live on 5 Plus first. You can always catch us there. We'll keep live radar scrolling throughout the night. If you get woken up and you're wondering what's going on, where's Scott at? 5 Plus is going to have live radar. I'll pop in there from time to time. If a tornado warning is issued, that's when we go on traditional Channel 5. The other exception to that rule, I'll break into programming if there's really large hail or really high winds. When we start to get destructive warnings, that's when we'll go ahead and break into television as well. The latest update from the Weather Service now drops that hail to less than 3/4 of an inch. And we just got that report out of Bella Vista. I didn't catch your name, but sir or ma'am, thank you. You're one step ahead of the Weather Service this evening. That's some good news. Still, though, 60-mile-per-hour winds. It's just down from 70. So it looks like this storm really pulsed up as it was moving through Benton County, but now is quickly dropping in intensity. Sometimes these things can pulse right back up. You've probably known that. Of course, you've tracked these storms just like we do here. They do pulse up and they pulse down. Pretty typical life cycle of a thunderstorm. The thing to keep in mind is soon it's going to be in Missouri, which is the Springfield coverage area. So if by chance it does pulse back up, they'll be the ones to cover it and bring you some information. Right now, though, it's a really small section of Benton County that's still included into this warning. West of Pea Ridge, north of Bentonville, through the Bella Vista community. That's the core of the storm. But I'll tell you, it really looks like the hail core itself has now moved well out of the Arkansas-Oklahoma. It's well across the Missouri-Arkansas state line. Had probably a little bit of hail, not near as intense as it was. You see those purples back there southwest of Decatur? That's probably when it was larger. Still dropped a little bit of hail. Some of that may have been melting on descent before it actually made it to the surface. But some hail nonetheless coming out of that storm there in Bentonville. It looks like that's taking it over into Missouri, which would be some good news for us. Let's take another area-wide look. Are any of these other cells producing any hail? That's going to be the only one. You can see that hail track with it. Goodness gracious, it really got going there as it crossed into Delaware County, really pulsed up just to the west of the state line. Points and junctures in that life cycle of that supercell probably did have a little bit of larger hail, minimally 1 inch in diameter. That and the 70-mile-per-hour winds is what that specific warning was issued for. I'd like to go back into our velocity tracker, which is the way we detect winds, and this is going to be out of the Tulsa radar. High winds, yeah, maybe a little bit still there. This is going to be the Springfield radar, maybe a little bit of high winds. But that's now moved into portions of Missouri. That's the good news for us. Okay, getting very high wind, thunder like I've never heard before. Hail the size of, let's see this Facebook message here, ping pong balls. I can't get outside to be able to show you. Our front ramp is covered in smaller hail and snow running off. Make it stop, Mr. Scott. Libby, I'm so sorry. I wish I could. I wonder if that report came in from a little bit earlier. Ping pong size would have maybe been accurate a little bit earlier in that storm's history. I'm wondering if I'm just now getting that message a little bit later. I don't see any of that right now. Looks like the winds may be coming up just to the north of Salem Springs again. That cell is not necessarily severe west of Gentry, but you notice those brighter pinks there? that's going to tell me those winds have picked back up with that cell. Again, not severe, but around 50 or so mile-per-hour winds, west side of Gentry. That's going to be just below severe weather limits. Keep in mind they're going to issue those warnings that the winds reach 58 or greater. So we're close to that. Let's watch it really closely to see if that cell doesn't try to pulse up and do something else. Here's a 1 hour radar loop. You notice most of the activity is primarily in northwest Arkansas. That's not to say the River Valley isn't going to get anything. You are. The thing that you need to know about tonight's storms and even really going into the weekend, it's all going to come down to where a cold front sets up. And that cold front is going to be oriented from the northeast back towards the southwest. It's slanted. It's not a perfect 90-degree angled straight line up and down. It's going to be oriented this general direction. And because of that, it's going to push those storms into northwest Arkansas first, like you see happening right now in real time. But you find up and down that line, there are additional cells that are trying to bubble up and they're trying to develop. And just to the west of McAllister, you can see that's going to be a severe thunderstorm warning there. Those are just going to take a little bit longer to move our direction. They're all moving towards the east-northeast. So when you look at the big picture, in fact, I've not done it since we started this stream, so I'll be curious to see what this shows us. You can kind of see that line right there, and you have cells back all the way into north central Texas. Those are the ones that are slowly, with time, going to be tracking our direction. It may take a long time. It may take several hours. Eventually, those move their way here, and we'll see additional pulses of energy right up along that front. We'll dive more into that here coming up in your 5 News at 10 in the 10 o'clock newscast. But for the time being, just know that those storms are really going to follow that front and where it stalls out. It is going to stall out, and that is going to keep severe weather chances in our forecast. Here's tonight's. We're under this level 2 for a good chunk of the area. I'll take a closer look back into our areas. You can see a few more roads and towns there. So that's tonight. This is tomorrow. Doesn't change a lot, right? It's because of that front, the fact that it's going to stall out pretty much right in our neck of the woods. How about Easter Sunday? Not much of a difference. Look, it does look like maybe we only drop to a level 1 for eastern Oklahoma, portions of northwest Arkansas, but that level 2 kicks into high gear pretty much up and down I-49 and points off towards the east. That'll be Sunday morning into the first part of the afternoon. I really think, and maybe I'm just being wishful, I really think we salvage the second half of Easter Sunday, especially by the evening. It should be a little quieter. Maybe cool, maybe overcast, maybe even a little bit dreary, but maybe it's not going to be as wet and stormy as what we're dealing with out there right now. So current time here is 9:35. We're live on 5 Plus tracking this storm. We're live on Facebook and YouTube as well. We'll probably keep live radar up overnight, just in case you hear that loud thunder, and there's going to be a lot of it, I'm afraid, even if these storms aren't severe. And that's a good possibility, that storms are going to be strong, but they're not meeting that threshold. What is that threshold? 58 mile-per-hour straight-line winds or higher, 1-inch hail or larger. And of course tornadoes, but that would trigger a tornado warning in of itself. If those thresholds are met, we'll be here for you all night long. We're going to be staffed around the clock through Sunday night until the threat has entirely passed. Looks like we do have a storm report here. It's going to be a tree blown down. That would have been, let's see if that can come into my system real quick. Yep, it's already there. Let's take a look at exactly where that was. That's where those winds were high, just south side of Decatur there. This is coming from an emergency manager, Gentry. Let's click on it, see if it gives us any more information. I'm not sure it will. Yeah, just thunderstorm wind damage right there in Gentry, right there pretty much right along State Highway 12. But I believe it. I bet we get a couple more of these. That wind was really high there. That was when the radar was detecting around 70 or so mile-per-hour winds. So minimally, you got some small limbs, some small twigs coming down. Very possible you got more than even that in some of those areas that we saw the strongest wind. There's rain right now, heavy rain moving through Gentry. That cell, that's on top of you. It's on top of Decatur. It's not severe at the moment. The only severe cell is really exiting our viewing area. It's crossing the state line right now. Probably some hail and some lightning in Bella Vista, maybe getting close into Pea Ridge. Let's take a closer look back at that. But that cell has been weakening over the last several minutes, which is good news. It was certainly strong at one point, but it does look like it is slowly but surely starting to weaken. Things are going to improve here in Bella Vista for those of us here real soon. Bentonville's dry at the moment. We'll probably have some showers move back in over the next few minutes. Here's Pea Ridge here. Got some heavy rain through town. That's not going to last very long. I'll give it about 10 or so minutes. We're dry in Garfield and Avoca. Really thought this cell was going to move towards Garfield, but you can see it's going to stay just 5 or 6 miles to your north and west. Good news for those of us there in both Garfield and Avoca. Very well possibly you're going to get some more showers though that are back building off towards the southwest to move through your neck of the woods. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for a good chunk of the area, all of northwest Arkansas, portions of the River Valley, including Crawford and Sequoyah counties. Does not include Sebastian, does not include LaFleur or any of these others. The severe thunderstorm watch is here in pink. I know you're seeing a lot of colors, right? Let's make sense of all this together. Severe thunderstorm watch, that's going to be in this Pepto-Bismol pink. That's one way of thinking of it. Green here is going to be our flood watch. That runs for everybody in the 5 News viewing area and elsewhere through Sunday night. Tornado watch off towards the southwest. That's going to be there in yellow. Our tornado potential here tonight is relatively low. It's not zero, but it's relatively low. That's the good news for us. And of course, our orange here are active severe thunderstorm warnings. There's 2 of them, technically speaking. One of them is very small. It was set to expire at 9:45. I suspect more than likely it's going to be allowed to expire as scheduled. This other warning, which was the second one issued for a very small sliver. You can kind of see the outline right here. It runs from this point right about here and over. It really was just drawn to include Pea Ridge back into that warning. That one was set to expire at 10 o'clock. It's possible the Weather Service lets it expire a little bit early. That's the hope for sure with that specific cell. I'll tell you though, this storm's weakening. Right now, it's still technically severe thunderstorm warned, but it is weakening, and that's the good news for us. May not mean the threat's entirely over, but the large hail that we probably saw a few moments ago, 10, 20, 30 minutes ago, the 70-mile-per-hour straight line winds, not seeing as pronounced evidence that that's still occurring, at least as of the moment. It is tracking over the state line over into Missouri, into McDonald County, so let's hope that certainly continues. This second warning, this is the one that was drawn up to include Gateway, Pea Ridge. Bella Vista was technically in the first warning as well, but it includes you too. That's set to expire at the top of the hour. Looks like we have a new warning. Let's see, brand new warning, which is going to be for that other cell. Yeah, of course. And it was that wind threat we were just looking at that has prompted this specific warning. Remember when we were talking about that? The wind there near Gravette and Decatur, 60-mile-per-hour winds are going to be possible with that cell. This one also includes Bentonville. Does not include Rogers, does include Bella Vista, Gravette, and Pea Ridge as well. So now we've got a new severe thunderstorm. These are those winds right there. They're not as strong as they were on that last storm, but they're strong, perhaps as high as around 60 or so miles per hour. That's going to be closing in on that I-49 corridor once more. It's taking a very similar path as the first storm that's now exiting over into Missouri. Let's see if it has any hail with it. It's possible, but I don't think so. That's going to be the last one. Look at hail now. Maybe a very small pocket of hail, less than a half inch for sure. By the way things have been melting tonight, it's probably even smaller than that. You can see that hail core right there. It's going to be a wind-driven severe thunderstorm warning if I'm seeing this correctly. The wind certainly looks to be somewhat pronounced right there. We're talking straight line wind 60 to 70. We've had a little bit of severe wind damage near Gentry a few moments ago with that first cell that come through. The second one's going to be capable of much of the same as well. Current time 9:40. New severe thunderstorm warning is in effect, and that one is going to be in effect until 10:30. So at the end of the newscast. So just for some context as to what's going to happen over the next few minutes, we do have a 10 o'clock newscast. This stream, just from the technical gizmos and gadgets, that's way above my pay grade, will probably end at 10 o'clock. You're still going to be able to find us on 5 Plus, on our mobile apps, on the platforms out there. It's just going to have to be a different stream that accommodates that 10 o'clock newscast. Once we run up to 9:59, this one's going to shut down. We transition over to that other product. I'll tell you that now. It gives you about 20 or so minutes to move over to 5 Plus or, or our mobile app. Free downloads, of course, always will be. If you want to That's where you can find us when this stream ends. Got a ways to go, and maybe, just maybe by 10 o'clock, this cell is out of the area. It's been moving at about 40 or so miles per hour tonight. With that information in mind, what we can do, okay, this one's actually moving quicker, which is good news if you want to look at it that way. It's up to 50 miles per hour, moving towards the northeast. So what I'd like to do is put a track on this at 50 miles per hour towards the northeast. And I'm tracking this not from the leading edge of the heavy rain. I'm tracking this from the leading edge of those strong winds, just to give you a general idea. How about Centerton here at 647, downtown Bentonville, Crystal Bridges, Lincoln Junior High School, 9:53 roughly, 10 o'clock on the dot for Pea Ridge. Pea Ridge National Military Park there at 10:04. Gives you some idea of when those winds are going to arrive. Right now, this warning is being driven by the potential of straight line winds. There could be some pockets of some small hail. Right now, that warning driven for straight line winds. We have a new warning. Things are just kind of unfolding quickly here this evening for us. What I'd like to do is back out. We'll do this all over again. So this is a warning for Adair County, extending into southwest Benton County. Does not include Washington. Looks like it's going to skirt just to the northwest of Washington County. Coming out of Adair County, this cell here is going to move through Siloam Springs. Siloam Springs and Gentry, you're now under a new severe thunderstorm warning. If we zoom in a little bit closer, the information is going to pop up there as to why this warning was issued. And that's going to be for 60-mile-per-hour winds and 1 inch in diameter hail. Gentry going to be downstream from that. Siloam Springs first. Here's the Watts community. Looks like the hail core itself is definitively right there in Adair County. That'll be tracking towards the northeast. That's going to come right into Siloam Springs from the southwest, moving towards the northeast. So while this new severe thunderstorm warning is taking a slightly different path, it does bring it through some of the same areas that have been hit by not one but two thunderstorms over the last hour alone. Now we're about to add a third to that. Zoom back out. I was just kind of curious if there's anything else developing, extending further towards the southwest. Not really at the moment. We'll watch to see if there is. Really quiet conditions in the River Valley. Not forgotten about you. You're just in really good shape right now. We'll stick with where those storms are. Well, there's a little shower developing southwest of Fayetteville in Washington County. That's all it is right now. Just a little shower. Could grow into something. These other three storms have quickly grown into severe thunderstorms, so we'll watch that out there. It's certainly an environment that would potentially be favorable for that. I'm pulling up the Jackling's camera once more. This is going to be our camera right there on Walton Boulevard. And I've got it pointed, I think this is generally towards the northeast. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to spin it back around towards the southwest. This is going to maybe give you a little bit of motion sickness, and I apologize for doing this to you. Give me just a second here. Okay, now that's looking off towards the east. You can see Walton Boulevard there down below us. We look back off towards the south over near the airport. There's the airport. Now we're getting closer to where I want this thing. Get a little bit further towards the west over there. Okay, now we can see it. Yep, there it is. I'm probably going to see a little bit of lightning on the uptick here over the next several minutes. If we were to leave it here, you can kind of see it. This is that new cell moving in from the southwest. So we'll leave that there. Let's go back to the Rogers camera. This is ours that sits on top of the hospital. This is Mercy Hospital in Rogers. Here's Interstate 49. So we look back towards the northwest, this general area. Yep, there's that thunderstorm right there. Electric thunderstorm. This has really been a really impressive light show for a lot of us. You're hearing that. That's the thunder. There's no question about that this evening. A lot of that is to be expected into the overnight hours. Unfortunately, in addition to the actual severe weather potential in of itself. Go back to live radar. Things are quiet in the River Valley. We'll take a closer look into northwest Arkansas. We've got a few different severe thunderstorm warnings. All of these orange polygons, these orange shapes are our severe thunderstorm warnings. The first one, the actual severe storm that was prompting that warning, has now exited over into Missouri. The second one is this cell right here. I'm drawing it loosely with my hand there. That's going to be moving into Bentonville here real soon. The third and the newest severe thunderstorm warning for Siloam Springs, extreme southeastern Delaware County. in the northern, let's say, quarter of Adair County. That cell, 60-mile-per-hour winds, up to 1 inch in diameter hail, getting ready to move into the Siloam community. For the folks there in Siloam, heads up. That storm is going to be a strong one over the next few minutes. It's likely going to be tracking into Bentonville and Rogers as well. Reason that warning is flashing, if you ever see the flashing on my screen here, that's either the warning's been updated for whatever reason, either they've upgraded or downgraded the threats, or they might actually, in this specific case, they're actually just updating the actual polygon itself, and they're telling us that the severe aspect of this cell has now cleared. So there's a small section there that's no longer in a warning, but you're soon going to see that storm moving up into that same exact area. These storms are going to start to train over each other. And when that happens, our potential for some flooding is going to increase. So there goes the hail core of the first storm. Here comes up the second hail core that's going to be tracking into the Siloam Springs community with that newest warning. Hail and winds are two primary concerns this evening. And that's certainly been the case with the three storms that we've seen thus far. Right now, what we find is this cell just to the west of Fayetteville, it's a shower. Sorry about that. I think we're getting ready for our 10 o'clock newscast. A small little technical difficulty, no big deal at all. No big deal at all. Let's go zoom in. I want to do something here real quick. I want to go back to the winds. Winds have been a concern with some of these cells. Here's Bentonville. Here's Centerton. There probably is some gusty wind right there along 12 and 102. That's going to be moving toward the northeast. Little Flock probably sees some winds pick up. That's probably where it's the strongest right now, getting closer and closer to Bentonville. This is going to be just to the northeast of Vaughan, east of Centerton, right there along 102. If there are some 60-mile-per-hour winds, that's probably where they would be at this moment. I saw something that kind of piqued my curiosity with this other cell coming out of Adair County. A couple of things that stick out. A little bit of rotation, actually, with this one. Now, just to be clear, I don't want to scare anyone. Rotation happens often, and it's never strong enough or organized enough to actually prompt a tornado warning because it's not warranting that. It's not the threat. So just because I see it doesn't mean there's immediate danger, right? Okay, that's all I'm saying. But there is a little bit right here. This is going to be southwest of Siloam. It's not organized, it's not tight, it's not even strong, but it's a little bit more pronounced than anything else we've seen this evening. You can kind of see where those greens and those reds are starting to meet up together. Those are winds blowing in different directions. You kind of see my scale up here. Greens are going to be winds blowing towards the Doppler radar site. Reds are going to be blowing away from it. We're using the Fort Smith radar site. So greens are going to be those southbound winds. Reds probably blowing northbound to some degree. But it really looks like damaging winds going to be our primary concern at the moment. Let's watch that just to be on the safe side. Again, no immediate, there's no tornado imminent, no issue like that. Let's watch that. It could be a growing storm that may try to pulse up and do something. We'll be on top of it in the event that it does. A little bit of a hook there, which isn't necessarily severe in of itself. That warning set to expire at 10:15. So we've got a ways to go. About 25 minutes exactly for that specific warning. 1 inch hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds. That's the concern with that specific one. This cell getting ready to move back into Bentonville, Bella Vista, likely falling below the limits for large hail, but 60-mile-per-hour winds are certainly going to be a possibility with that specific cell. Checking my batteries here. I'm afraid it's going to be one of those nights we're just going to have battery issues. I saw a red light. No, we're good. Good for the time being. Heavy rain, no question about it. It's getting ready to move back into downtown Bentonville. Things are really picking up there really closely. This storm moving at about 50 miles per hour. And so if we put a track on that, actually let's just loop it for the last hour, just to give you an idea of kind of how things have quickly unfolded. It's actually the last 3 hours. Let's slow that down. We'll do 45 minutes. How about that? Kind of see that general trajectory up towards the north and east. Kind of getting messy. And when these cells start to conglomerate together, that's when we start to see increased flooding potential. I'm seeing that happen right now. Not only are they kind of congealing together, they're becoming clusters of thunderstorms, they're also moving over the same area over and over and over and over again. And that can be a little bit concerning to us. You start to see those flood potentials really increase when that begins to take place. looking into Benton County. Benton County is the only place that we've had warnings really this evening in Arkansas. Now, we've had them in Delaware and Adair County, and you can see this next cell moving out of Adair County, getting ready to move into the Salem Springs community. That's also continuing to track into the area. That cell is got a concerning look to it. Let's go back to velocity. There was a little something there. Honestly, I don't really see it much anymore. When you look out of the Fort Smith radar site, it's a little bit more pronounced, not as much out of Tulsa, which is not necessarily surprising. The ingredients that are there this evening are not necessarily conducive for a lot of tornado genesis. Really looks like this is primarily going to be a damaging wind and hail event, and that's been the forecast for the last several days, so it's not necessarily unsurprising there. 9:53 is the current time. Danny, our producer, good evening to you. Are you by chance in the booth yet? No, you don't have to. Just have him pop in my ear when he's up in the booth. I'd like to kind of walk through a game plan as to how we are going to navigate the 10 o'clock newscast. I'm going to do something. I'm going to walk off screen over here. I'm going to pull up an RDOT camera. There's an RDOT camera there in Siloam Springs that has a really good look off towards the west there. I'll pull this up for you guys here on the stream as well. Give me just 1 second. Okay. That is a perfect game plan for me. So this is a live look in Siloam Springs right now, courtesy of our friends at the Arkansas Department of Transportation. High winds moving through the area. You can see, you can kind of see that there. A lot of rain coming down as well. I don't see any hail, not necessarily the best picture to see hail, but I don't see any at the moment. Could potentially be some good news for us. We'll keep a track on that. I certainly continue to see that cell though. It's got a kind of a concerning little bit of a shape to it. Not necessarily much in the way of actual rotation. That's the good news. I've had some weak rotation at times. Right now, this is just a damaging wind and potentially a little bit of hail threat. We've seen that this evening already, unfortunately, across a good portion of western Benton County. That's where we saw the strongest of hail winds and the largest of hailstones moving through. Let me see what I got here. From a storm tracker, 70 mile per hour wind gust, perhaps in that Siloam Springs cell. That's it's going to be that's concerning. Let's see what we got here. Kind of tough to detect, to be honest. That's some ground truth. I generally believe ground truth a lot more than I believe radar at this angle. We're looking really high up into the sky to see into that specific cell, so not all of that is necessarily going to be making it to the ground. Our hail tracker does show a little bit of hail moving into that area. Keep in mind sometimes that can be a little bit delayed though. It does look like probably some hail though, moving out here into Siloam Springs. This is going to be Mount Olive Street right here. Crossing the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. You see that pocket of purple there? It's not the biggest, but it's going to be moving right into Siloam Springs in the next, let's say, give it the next 5 to 10 minutes. Things are going to get loud. I know it's loud out there right now. A lot of lightning, a lot of thunder. Here's 264 right there. That runs interchanges with 412. That's going to be a prime spot to see this storm. If you live there, unfortunately, it's going to come really close to you. Live on the south side of town, you may miss things a little bit. If you live south of 412, you may miss the core of that hail that's getting ready to move through Siloam Springs. Let's zoom out. I want to put a track on this just to give folks an idea of when that is set to arrive. Is it still moving at 50? It is still moving at, no, it's sped up. This thing is now moving at 55 miles per hour. That hill just came up a little bit in Siloam. I'm going to move you over just a bit. Put a cone on this at 55 miles per hour. This is the second storm. This is the third storm, I should say. Siloam Springs now. High fill there at XNA 1009. Let's put it in center on 1017 downtown Bentonville at 10:21, that specific cell. It's the strongest of the ones we've got. Not to say the one that's moving through Bentonville right now isn't strong. It is, and it's technically severe given the winds and the hail that are going to be potentially coming out of that cell. It's this one off towards the southwest that is going to be the strongest. I know we're coming up on our 10 o'clock newscast. This stream's probably going to come to a screeching halt at 9:59. We're still going to be live on 5 Plus. We're still going to be live on your mobile apps. We're still going to be live on 5newsonline.com. We'll be tracking the storm in your 5 News at 10, as well as the rest of this evening's severe weather potential. You got a couple more opportunities for storms, unfortunately, going into the weekend. So join us there. When the stream comes to an end, you'll be able to find us there, and we'll continue tracking those. Okay, excellent. I'm talking to our producer up there, getting some information on how we're going to proceed getting out of this severe weather live stream over into our newscast. You wouldn't believe the technical hoops that we get to jump through just to make all this happen and as seamlessly as possible. I'm going to continue tracking this storm until we get up into that moment, which is probably going to be here real soon. Benton County has been ground zero for these storms this evening. We've had 3 severe thunderstorm warnings move through Benton County, 70-mile-per-hour winds earlier, large hail. Got a report of ping-pong out there from our friend Libby. Libby, will you send me another message and let me know where that report is coming in from? I can't quite remember where you're at. So I got about 3 minutes, is that right? 2 minutes. Oh, okay. 3 minutes till the show, though, right? 2 minutes. Okay. 2, 3, what does it matter? 10 o'clock. We're going to be on the 10 o'clock news at 10. That's what matters, right? Siloam Springs is where our strongest thunderstorm is right now. That's continuing to push towards the northeast. So it's going to be moving through an area that's been hit not once, but twice already. This is going to be the third whammy right now. Large hail and potentially some gusty winds. We just had a 75-mile-per-hour measurement taken there in Siloam Springs. That's enough to do a little bit of damage, I'm afraid. We start issuing warnings at 60 mile per hour. So the fact that we're exceeding that by quite a far is a little bit concerning right now. No damage reports coming out of that specific cell. We did have one from Gentry earlier. We did have a tree snapped, or at least some limbs snapped there in Gentry. And right now, Gentry's getting another hit right just to the north side of this specific cell. You see the pink and the purple right here, right along 264. That's where the hail core is right now. If my buddy Tanner in Siloam Springs, dude, send me a text message and let me know what you just got. I'm sure you just got hit with something, winds or hail, maybe heavy rain, maybe a combination of all of the above. Tanner, if you could, send me a text message. Highfill is going to be next in line from this specific cell. All right, so here's what we're going to do. About 30 seconds from our newscast. The stream, unfortunately, is going to end. I'm watching the countdown live, and it's going to be so sad when it does. We'll catch you there over on 5 Plus. We'll catch you there on 5newsonline.com, our mobile app. We continue tracking these storms. You can watch the entire 10 o'clock newscast there. And then we'll be right back here, should there still be warnings, at 10:30.
Tonight, an ongoing legal fight over portions of the LEARN Act. A judge now considering what the state can and cannot pull out of curriculum it deems indoctrination. And Florida State University mourns in the aftermath of yesterday's deadly shooting on campus. Plus, we're hearing from a survivor who's sharing her story.
Covering news where you live. This is 5 News at 10.
First, we start with a busy radar tonight as severe storms move through Benton County. I'm Lauren Spencer. Darren has the night off. We're going to get straight to Scott. He's tracking those storms right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Lauren. We have had a rough last couple of hours, specifically in Benton County. We're quiet and clear across the River Valley, but it is Benton County where we've got a third severe thunderstorm now moving through the area. And this last one that's just now beginning to slowly exit Siloam Springs, get this, we very well could be seeing 70-mile-per-hour winds coming out of this cell. We just had a report of 75-mile-per-hour measured winds, so it's not even a guesstimate, it's measured winds, and it very well could be capable of producing some large hail there as well. In fact, the hail potential is 1.5 inches. That's certainly some sizable hail that can create what we consider, the Weather Service considers, considerable damage. So this specific severe thunderstorm warning, which includes Siloam Springs and Gentry, is technically considered a considerable severe thunderstorm warning. There's layers to all of this, right? It's not the garden variety severe thunderstorm warning, and the reason why, it's that wind potential and 1.5 inch size hail. So we're talking some larger hailstones potentially falling out of this right now along 264. Heads up, folks in Highfield, you're going to be next in line with this specific storm. Here's Springtown right along Highway 112. This eventually tracks a little bit further into Benton County. In fact, what we'll do is we'll put a track on it. It was moving at about 55 miles per hour. I got a report from a storm spotter there, our storm spotter Tanner. Quarter-size hail in Siloam. Wind wasn't too bad, so it looks like maybe parts of that cell is producing the high winds. He and his side of town not seeing that, which is some good news. That measurement though was at about 60 miles per hour. This is going to put it into the Bentonville community. You can see this is taking an east-northeast track, so it's going to get close to Bentonville. It's going to get close to Rogers. Showers now extending to the west of Fayetteville. They're not severe at the moment. Looks like the hail may have just come up on that latest scan as it continues to push off towards the northeast. We'll continue tracking this storm. Here's the unfortunate news. This is just the first of what could be several rounds of rain and storms, not just tonight, but into tomorrow, and inevitably before it all wraps up by Sunday evening. We'll have the latest storm track for you right here in just minutes.
Thanks, Scott. Remember, you can track the rain and storms where you live with our free 5 News app. All you have to do is search KFSM in the App Store. Tomorrow marks 30 years since the Oklahoma City bombing, a tragedy that shook the nation and left a lasting mark on countless lives. A truck bomb was detonated at a federal building in downtown Oklahoma City, killing 168 people, including 19 children, in the deadliest homegrown attack on U.S. soil. This weekend, there'll be a remembrance ceremony to honor the lives lost. Among those victims, Fort Smith native Rebecca Needham Anderson, a nurse who rushed to the scene to help. She collapsed and later died rescuing survivors at the blast site. Renota Woodbridge, who graduated from high school in Batesville and earned a bachelor's and master's in civil engineering from the U of A. Wanda Watkins, WJP, had a family ties to Rogers and is buried there. She worked as a civilian for the Army and even spent time at Fort Chaffee before transferring to Oklahoma City. And Mark Bolte, a Bentonville native and a U of A graduate, worked for the Federal Highway Administration and was inside the federal building when the bomb went off. His mother remembers the exact moment when the news reached her.
One of the girls turned around to somebody and she said, "They just blew up the federal building in Oklahoma City," and I just literally froze. They called and said he was missing. Then they called and said they thought they'd found him. And then late that evening they called and said he was missing. And we left for Oklahoma City that night.
All 168 lives will be remembered in a ceremony in Oklahoma City tomorrow morning. Morgan Wrigley will be at that event. You can catch it live tomorrow morning starting at 8:30, live on 5+. Download on your TV and watch for free. Tonight, a judge is considering what the state of Arkansas can and cannot pull out of curriculum it deems indoctrination. 5 News reporter Kayla Davis breaks it all down for us.
Last March, a group of teachers and students from Little Rock Central High filed a lawsuit against the state, claiming Section 16 of the LEARNS Act, titled Indoctrination, violated their First and 14th Amendment. Section 16 requires the Arkansas Department of Education to review policies, materials, and communications to identify and eliminate any content that may promote teaching ideologies such as critical race theory. Nearly 1 year ago, a federal judge placed a preliminary injunction or temporary pause on Section 16 while the legal battle continued. On Thursday, the 8th Circuit Court in St. Louis, Missouri heard oral arguments after Attorney General Tim Griffin's request for the courts to lift that pause on the case. Maya A. Broadjack, the lawyer representing the Little Rock Central teachers and students, argued the pause is necessary to uphold the First Amendment right to receive information.
Without it, students will lose access to a wide array of materials and information in their classes that they need to help them develop their critical thinking skills and ultimately to support their constitutionally protected rights to speak and participate in our democracy.
But the state argues they can control curriculum as a form of government speech, and the First Amendment cannot limit what they can or can't say.
Here the parties agree, as did the district court, that the speech Arkansas's law regulates, public school teaching, is government speech.
However, Brodshack counters that it's not about what the government chooses to include in curriculum, but whether or not they are removing material based on ideology or racism. At one point, the judges ask if the law is a ban or broad instruction.
Section 16 operates as a ban in that it directs the Secretary of Education to remove materials from a curriculum, which to me is the same as banning them from the curriculum, saying these materials we believe constitute prohibited indoctrination, you cannot have them.
To close, the state urged reversal, arguing no laws or rights were violated.
Our law is not a ban of teaching critical race theory. It is a prohibition on indoctrinating students in critical race theory, compelling them to adopt, affirm, or profess certain ideas.
Covering news where you live, Kayla Davis, 5 News.
We are still awaiting a decision from the federal court on if that pause will remain in place. Tonight, 2 Fort Smith parents are facing charges after police say their child tested positive for THC. Kelly and Roy Casey are accused of endangering the welfare of a minor. Court documents show that back in February, Kelly Casey allegedly told police she found her child was lethargic and bleeding from his nose and took him to the hospital. Those documents also show that hospital staff determined the child had acute respiratory failure and secondary THC poisoning due to overdosing on the substance. Both have pleaded not guilty. 2 people in Benton County are facing death by delivery charges after a fatal overdose this month. Gage Hill and Jamie Walker are both being held on $1 million bonds. Investigators say Adam Hensley was found dead from a fentanyl overdose. Police say texts from the victim's phone show Hensley bought fentanyl